This is Rebecca from ChemKnits, and I am so excited for today's experiment. When I was in the craft store and I saw these color mist food coloring sprays, I thought that this would be a really interesting way to apply food coloring to yarn. And who knows what kind of effect we would get. It depends on how concentrated the sprays are. I selected the color mist in two of my favorite Wilton colors, violet and black, because these colors break beautifully. And who knows what we'll see with these sprays on the yarn. Today's dyeing experiment is brought to you by Elisa, and I cannot wait to dye this yarn for you. If we take a closer look at the ingredients of these sprays, we can see that the food coloring present in the violet and black are very similar to what we see in the icing colors. The violet spray has both red number 3 and blue number 1, and the black spray has red number 40, blue number 1, and yellow number 6. Today I'm going to dye two different types of yarn with these food coloring sprays. We're going to do Knit Picks Wool of the Andes, which is the worsted weight 100 grams, 100% wool yarn. We're also going to use the Stroll Fingering Base, which is 75% superwash merino and 25% nylon. We know from some of our other dyeing experiments that these two yarns take up dye differently. And so I'm curious what kind of different effects we'll see on these fibers. I have pre-soaked these yarns in room temperature tap water with 3 tablespoons of vinegar because there is no acid in the color mist sprays, and in order to dye yarn with food coloring, you need to use a protein-based fiber and then add some acid in addition to the food coloring. I removed as much of the liquid as I could from these yarns using a salad spinner because I don't want them to be saturated. So but they are damp. Now I am opening up my sprays. Now, it might have been ambitious to try to dye 200 grams of yarn with these, but I am still really excited to see what we will get. And I don't want to forget wearing gloves because I have a feeling I might make some mess. All right. Okay, so this doesn't sound like a spray paint can or something, because there's not like a ball in the can or anything. And this is what it looks like, and whoa. Okay, that doesn't really look like very much, does it? Oh, cool. Oh, that's awesome. Okay, this is really fun. I mean, it smells kind of like spray paint in here, but oh man, I think that we might get some like glaze using this. Wow, the colors are like dark, but look, in some of these sections, oh man, you get some like, I guess you can't really see, but you get some like barely any coverage. That's so cool. Okay, let's see on the, oh man, this is really fun. It still feels like, you know, so I've done light coverage on half of these skeins so far, but it feels like I still have plenty of liquid in here. Oh, this is cool. All right, let's do some black. Hopefully there isn't too much overspray. I'm really curious what that color will end up looking like. I'm impressed that while the coverage seems to be really light, because it's really only on like the top of the yarn. It's not like penetrating even through the whole strand. Let's do oh, this is fun, you guys. Oh, I'm so curious if we're gonna see any breaking or what. I'm a little nervous to manipulate this, but I guess, okay, so it is definitely, when I touch it, coming off on my hands, which is not like an unreasonable thing to expect, but man. This is fun, you guys. All right, I'm now gonna try, oh man. So I'm wondering now if it's in, so much is coming on my hands, how much is like in the fiber versus just sitting on the fiber. But I think I'm gonna work through to like keep spraying as much of this as I can. And so kind of have like a half, whoops, that is darker. Because I still want, like I want a reasonable coverage, but this is really, really fun, you guys. And you can get spray cans, so that way you can do this with, like I don't think you would necessarily have to buy this spray in order to do this. I think that you could buy, like there's different misters and stuff that you could use, and I don't know what the alcohol content in here is going to do to the yarn either. Hopefully I don't then discover that my kitchen is black and purple. Oh, I should make sure to wipe my hands in between. Oh, funny. I can see in the air, in the sunlight, some like spray from the aerosol. But I am wearing a white shirt right now. So if I am actually spraying myself, that will become evident shortly. But I think the food coloring itself is making it onto the yarn. I'm starting to see some pink and blue separations over here on our wool yarn. Actually, I think I'm gonna go ahead and just flip this over right now. So I know that like people like talking about glazed yarns, and so you get like light coverage on part of the yarn versus like a full coverage, and so that's really popular right now. And so I don't know if this is a good approximation of that or what. I do know that, you know, you can get more, you know, the harder you press down, the darker color you get. But even on this section right here, which is kind of dark, the fibers themselves, like it's really not penetrating. It's really just sticking the color onto one side. But as I, you know, go through and add more color around the skein, that will add color to more parts. I mean, this is certainly a lot of fun. kind of a, I mean, is this hand painted, hand sprayed? What would you call it? I don't want there to be any like patches that are too white. But if I, okay, so if I'm really close, you can actually get it in like a really small spot. And then you get lighter color if you spread it out. But it's really easy to miss sections. And because I took so much water out of the yarn before starting, this means that the dyes don't really have that far to spread. I think if the yarn was wetter, it would be easier for the food coloring to spread out. But we know from some other experiments just how quickly the food coloring binds to some of these yarns. Oh, this is cool. I mean, there's definitely, I mean, I didn't test like really far back to see about speckles or anything really quickly, but before I just kind of started going for it. I would say the breaking so far is actually minimal. I'm not really sure what effect the alcohol content will have on this. I mean, I do in some areas see some of the brighter fuchsia come out, but the black is actually feeling pretty consistent. Oh no, in that area right there I did see a blue before I sprayed over that quickly. Because if you remember, the Wilton's black tends to break into like a maroon and then like a really nice deep blue. But I plan to let these sit for a bit before I set the color. Because that, with hand-painted yarns and stuff especially, I think seems to help encourage the breaking. When I did the speckled yarn using Wilton's Violet and that broke spectacularly, oh man, I wish I could show this like haze from the sprays that I'm getting in my kitchen. That I let sit for a while before I put it in the steamer basket, and I think that that aided with the separation. So I still feel like I have a reasonable amount of food coloring in here. Although, like, when I shake it, I can feel the liquid. So, yeah. I don't want there to be like, I don't mind there being some white in here, but I don't want there to be like any huge white patches. And clearly my handling of the fibers is going to affect the color absorption and whatnot. But purple and black is one of my, beyond just the breaking, the way the colors break, it's one of my favorite color combinations anyway. I think that you definitely could get some speckles with this, with some like far away with some light taps. Or I think that using this versus using this for the entire painting of a yarn, maybe using it on one section to add like a little pop, or you can, because you can really get some light coverage. So if you dye something all over, ooh, that's the next experiment I should do with this. I should dye some yarn in all over color and then take these sprays and give it some extra shots of color. Oh, I also want to try this on, oh gosh, on the sock blank special. Oh, I could do some graffiti. You guys, that will be so cool. Yeah, there's many, many different things that we can do with this. This is so fun. I mean, as far as food coloring and stuff goes, these sprays are expensive. I mean, they are like, it's more cost effective to get some other forms of food coloring, but these sprays are really unique. And so the last like real question that we'll have when we finish the yarn is, did we damage the yarn by spraying it with this alcohol mixture? And I'm hoping that the answer to that is no. But yeah, I don't know if it's hard to gauge how much I've got left, you guys. I feel like I've got reasonable coverage on each of these yarns. And it's taken me around 15 minutes or so I've spent on this. I think that next time I do this, I would be able to go a bit faster. But yeah, I am pretty happy with the way that this is turning out. Yeah, and you can hear there's still, maybe I should have weighed it first so that way I would know how much is left. There's still a reasonable amount left, but I am now, I think I'm done applying the dye to these yarns, and I'm going to let them sit for 15 minutes before I close this up to heat them up to set the color, because I want to give the dye some time to spread and break a bit maybe before we set the color. While we're waiting, I wanted to zoom in on some of these areas where I do see some breaking. You can start to see some blue and bright pink show up in these fibers beyond just the purple. And there's a bit more of that in the 100% wool than I'm seeing right now in the sock yarn. I'm seeing more of a consistent violet and shades of violet over here. This is the sock yarn, and I do see some blue peeking out. So we do have a tiny bit of breaking so far going on with the black food coloring. It's not super obvious, but in some of these areas you can start to see the maroon and blues. I don't really see much maroon yet in the wool, but I do maybe see some hints of blue poking out. Not quite sure. But the other good news right now is that my white t-shirt is totally clean. So it looks like we managed to, even though like some of the alcohols and spray go up in the air, the food coloring really does end up on the target. So that is great news. The 15 minutes have passed, and while I think we do have some great breaking, you know, on the wool and some slight amount of breaking on this sock blend, I don't think it's really getting that much more pronounced after the wait than it was just, you know, after a minute or so. I observed some of the bigger breaking when I had to stop before heating the fiber because the kids woke up from a nap. And so I will look into this further in the future. But now we are ready to start wrapping these up so that way we can heat up the fiber and set the colors. And I'm kind of just going to do this all together. This is one of the benefits of using plastic wrap on your work surface is that when you are ready to heat up the fibers and you are ready to go. There is still some more dye that is present on the plastic wrap that I'm not bothering to clean out. And I can also see, which I'm not sure if you can see, no, not quite. All right, there is a little bit of a line here where I overshot my plastic wrap. So I am gonna need to take some extra care to clean off my work surface, and I therefore recommend, oh gosh, yeah, here's a piece of paper, and you could see that there are some, I think, bananas on top or something that the dye carried back. So I will need to do a bit of cleaning, but I remained clean, so that is good. But so I recommend preparing a larger work surface than you are used to for this technique, and hopefully I'll be able to clean this all up no problem. All right, so here is our jelly roll containing all 200 grams of fiber. I am going to place this in a microwave safe bowl. Still place this in a microwave safe bowl and microwave on high in 2-minute increments until the yarn is piping hot. And I got a good question today on the YouTube channel. Someone wanted to know why I bother heating in increments. Why don't I just go ahead and do this 4 minutes straight out? I would be comfortable just heating this yarn for 4 minutes as it is, because I know my microwave and I know how long it takes for a fiber to get really hot and for the color to set. What I don't want to do is risk yarn drying out. So I recommend starting heating the yarn in shorter increments so you don't end up accidentally drying out the yarn and ruining your fiber. I've never ruined the fiber and I've never had yarn drying out. It's just a precaution that I take. 4 minutes was sufficient for me to heat up the fiber, and so now I just need to let this cool completely, and then we can rinse out any extra dye. I'm amazed I didn't get any food coloring on me at all, but what ended up, I guess, around my work surface isn't so bad. I did make sure to wipe everything down. I checked my floors and nothing seemed to get there. The biggest, I guess, areas of splash were just beyond the region where I was spraying. But thankfully, it looks like I was able to get just about all of the food coloring off of my countertop. And if I wasn't, I can't really tell. So I will be back when the yarn is cooled and we'll rinse out all the excess food coloring. Now is the time where I say, please don't make me regret not wearing gloves as I wash the fiber. I'm gonna add some dish soap to the water, and then we will unwrap our dyed yarns as best we can. And already, maybe I should have put the gloves back on. Well, that's not so bad actually. It's mostly from residuals on the saran wrap. Okay, there's our wool yarn. And here is our second. Ooh, yay! There's definitely some cool breaking in the black area. Cool. All right, we need more cool water. You can see that there's, whenever you're doing hand painting, you end up with some dye on the saran wrap. And that is why you should keep wearing your gloves. But I'd say the yarns feel great. And look at that. The color is all in our yarn. Hooray, hooray, hooray. So now I'm going to, gently rinse and wash these until the water runs completely clear, which it is already very clear, so that is a good sign. And then I will remove the excess water with my salad spinner and hang these up to dry. The yarn isn't dry yet, but check out that breaking on these tiny sections on the sock yarn. Here are the finished dry yarns. We use the Wilton's Color Mist spray to lightly apply dye to the fiber. And I'm impressed that we still have colors that are as deep as they are, given that we use this spray lightly to add the dye to the fiber. And so we've got these deep patches of color, but we still have some white patches. And I'm not sure if you would really call this a glaze or not, but we definitely have some spots where half of the strand has color and the other half doesn't. And so there was a real light touch with the application. I am super excited with this technique, and Elisa, I really hope you love your yarn. If we look closer, you can see that the tones of the purples are actually different on the superwash nylon blend and the 100% wool. In the 100% wool, we see a lot more of a fuchsia, and we get more of a lavender purple in the blend. But what's cool is that we have sections where you can see one color on the yarn on one side, and then as you twist it, you get slightly different colors on the other. And so that's really kind of fun and not something that is easy to achieve. Here's a close-up of the sock yarn, and you can see in some sections, like right here, we actually see some like tiny micro breaking. It almost looks speckled in patches, where in fact it is, because, you know, we sprayed with drops, but I think it's just so pretty. The tones of the black are much closer than the purples, and I think that the way that the dye bound to the yarn is pretty similar in both of these examples. We can see some little bits of breaking here on the nylon. You can see that the color is on one side of the strand. Here we see a bit more of the blue, and the breaking is a little more subtle in the black, where it was a little more pronounced in the purple, but you can still see it in the yarn. We used 2 different colors of Wilton's Color Mist to dye these awesome yarns. And there's still some liquid back in the cans. So in theory, we could use these to dye more than 200 grams of yarn. But if you wanted to get a deeper color, I wouldn't bother with the spray. But I think that you could use the spray in conjunction with some other dyeing techniques to get a really cool effect. Like, I would really like to use these food coloring sprays on a pre-knit blank. I think that you could do some really cool, fun graffiti style painting and create some really interesting colors. And maybe it would be easy to do some blending of different colors as well. I am really excited to play with these Color Mist sprays more further. And I'm just excited with the way that these yarns came out. Elisa, thank you so much for supporting the Dyepot Weekly Kickstarter campaign and for sponsoring this video. I am so honored to have your support, and I really hope that you love the yarn that I dyed just for you. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you want to see more fun dyeing videos and be notified whenever I start a live stream, make sure you subscribe to the ChemKnits Tutorials YouTube channel. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.